All right, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is December 14th, and it's the third meeting of the Boise Public Library Board of Trustees in the fiscal year 2023. Jessica, would you mind making introductions?
The person who is new to you today is Corey Pence, who is on the agenda for an educational update on insurance. And everyone else you have seen before, great welcome back.
All right. There are no communications for today, which takes us to minutes approval.
Brian, you want to do a roll call?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Can I get a roll call?
Sure.
Lemons. Here. Magnuson. Pantera. Brush.
Here.
Plenty.
Here.
3 board members present, Magnuson and Pantera absent.
So we have a quorum as long as we all behave. Which takes us to minutes approval. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the November 9th board meeting?
Move to approve the minutes from the November 9th meeting.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any opposed, say nay. They're approved. Next item is the consent agenda. And it's bills and payroll report and financial report for October. I think everyone's had a chance to review these prior to the meeting. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Motion carried. Consent agenda is approved, which takes us to item 4 on the agenda, the reports. First up is Jill Johnson, President of the Friends of the Library.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great. Good morning. We ran an online auction December 1st through 4th. We had 118 items in that auction. 80% of them sold, and we were able to raise just over $2,600 from that adventure. So our auctions are always unpredictable, always a lot of fun, and it was great to see the support continue in that online forum. We also last week held a nonprofit educator little free library giveaway day. Normally this was something that we were able to do after our large sales when we still had our the warehouse that the library provided to us. We used to be able to leave those sales set up and we would invite people to come in after the sale was over and clear out things. But obviously, since we're using the auditorium now, we can't leave the sale set up for longer. So we invited a whole bunch of people to come to the Marion Bingham room and haul away whatever they wanted to haul away. We were able to dispose of 58 boxes of materials, mostly kids and young adults. Emily was able to connect us with Kate Radford in Youth Services, who had a backlog of items that they hadn't been able to give away because of COVID to their summer school outreach. So we were also able to help them offload some of that in advance of some of the juggling of storage space that needed to be done in light of the upgrade project that the library is undergoing. So that ended up being a fantastic success. We also had a request from the Department of Corrections to have some folks come back and look through some of our additional backstock. So we're going to arrange for that to happen too. So we're still continuing to clean out some of our backstock on the 4th floor, and we're making more and more progress every day. Also, with the request of the library, they wanted us to stop taking donations as of mid-month. We figured out that stopping taking donations in the middle of our normal donation week cycle would be difficult for us to message. So we actually closed donations as of last Friday. And in another fit of kismet, we discovered that we could not fit our donation bin through the doors of our space on the 4th floor. But the library was also looking for a way for book returns to happen when they're doing some additional work on their current book return area. So we're going to let them use our bin as their temporary bin to save a little money on the budget as well. So it's great when a plan comes together, even if we didn't know that that was what was going to happen. So that is my report for this month.
All right, Jill, any improvement in the outlook for your ability to execute during the remodeling on the 4th floor?
We are still in process on that. I don't have anything to announce publicly yet, but we still are very much working on that behind the scenes, and I hope to have an update for you in the new year.
All right, thank you very much for your report. That takes us to the Library Foundation report and President Brian Manship.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So the foundation is not meeting in the month of December. However, we are looking forward to the next year of 2023 with some important and sizable contributions that we are looking to make. We are looking to make a contribution which has become an annual thing for printed materials. That will happen in the new year in 2023, as well as getting an earlier start on putting together some plans for sponsorships and so forth for the Boise Comic Arts Festival. Those are the two big projects that we have slated at this point. We have new donations coming in that already for other programs as well, but we will be working on sponsorships for the Boise Comic Arts Festival in particular. In 2022, we have realized that we had a problem with our donation site, Donor Perfect, that was not accessible. And we found out that there were some issues with that, that it got inactivated, discontinued, and so forth. But yet it was accepting our donations that we were receiving. And so I'm happy to report that I work very closely with Donor Perfect, and all donations are accounted for. They were secure, and we are in the process right now of getting reactivated with that, so that we will have better accountability for those donations. Even though they provided all the donation accountability accounting for us, we'll have it at our fingertips going forward. And so that was a good resolution to a problem that we discovered in 2022, that something fell through the cracks with someone who was managing that previously. So anyway, we're looking forward to 2023, but those are the things that we are working on currently.
Thank you for that update. Any questions for Brian? No questions today, Brian. Thank you very much.
Thank you much.
All right, that takes us to the director's report. Jessica.
Thank you. First, I just want to start with a thank you to Jill Johnson and the Friends. We are, and you also saw the impact in actually later in the meeting, you'll be approving an amendment to the Learning Lab. As we've gone through the planning for the renovation, it became really clear that we just couldn't have anybody on the 4th floor for a big part of next year. And that has impacted it's impacted our staff, it's impacted the city partners that work up on the 4th floor, it's impacted the Friends and Learning Lab, and everyone has been really gracious about helping us make sure that we are having a safe work environment and being really flexible. And as Jill said, it was pretty funny realizing that we have this, the donation box just does not get through doorways. And we weren't sure what to do with it, and then realized, oh, we've got this great additional usage for it. So I, thank everybody for their flexibility and their understanding as we are getting closer and closer to the start date on that. And then one thing I also just wanted to call to your attention, as you may notice, we don't have an update on our strategic planning for discussion today. But want to assure you we're still doing that work. We are getting very close to having a final phase 1 summary to send to you in preparation for the January meeting. And some of it you will have seen before, we'll have presented, but it's a really great wrap up of everything that we've heard, the discussions, the groups, the input. One piece in particular that I'm really excited about that I don't think you've seen is the peer benchmarking section, where a consultant did some really great looking at other libraries. And in-depth interviews. There's 5 libraries that are profiled, and just really exciting because they picked some libraries that are doing, libraries that are doing great work with outreach, or libraries that are really focused on education. So we've got some great models that are really close to us in sort of size and structure, but really want to call that out in terms of something that I think will help with sort of our visioning of where we want to go next. So
That'll be in the soon to be delivered.
that will be in the soon delivered, yeah. So when we get that final version, we will send it out to you because it's big and we want to give you guys some time to read it. In fact, if you want us to print it and mail it to you, let us know. I would not recommend reading it on the screen. So yeah, when we send it out, we'll have you can reach out to Leanne or myself or Carrie, and we'll print it out, we'll stick it in the mail. And have it. It'll be a nice little Christmas present. And then with that, if there's any questions.
One other thing of the strategic plan I saw in your notes is that there's going to be a phase 2 timeline and.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, thank you. Yeah, we'll talk about that in January.
Okay. All right, any questions for Jessica? All right, that takes us to an educational item. Some background on this: a few months ago, we had a water leak in the Hillcrest facility. And as we were sizing up the damage, trying to figure out how bad we were hit, I wondered how we were insured. And the state statute and the city code both say that the board is responsible for ensuring that we are properly insured. So we decided to call an expert in to help us understand how we are insured. So please welcome Corey Pence, the Risk and Safety Senior Manager at the City of Boise.
Thank you. And thanks for inviting me in to talk insurance. I don't get to do that enough. So thank you. So I'm in the risk and safety team, and we do these things for the city. I like to lead with that little advertisement, but risk management, liability claims, the workers' compensation claims, occupational safety and health, insurance programs, property programs, employee training, and then total employee health and safety, a new initiative that we're working on. When do you call us? And I throw this up there, and a lot of jokes are out there, but something bad happens, better call Corey is what too many people say. But it is. If there's an employee injuries, if there's community members that are injured or have received a loss, property damage, safety concerns, liability, risk assessments, building plan reviews, for instance, your roof. We're involved in that, working with Public Works, making sure things are going okay. We have our insurance company look at that ahead of time. We prefer to call ahead of time. We'll take them after the incident, but we really like to do assessments ahead and really work and partner with departments to solve things. So please don't be afraid. Give us a call. This is the team. We have our claims, insurance, workers' comp and liability claims group. We also have 3 risk and safety coordinators. They're assigned different departments. For instance, Jason Lopez is assigned to the library. However, you'll see all 3 because they have different specialties, and then they partner together. For instance, Kip is with Public Works, so he's working on the roof. Jason's working with the other needs. So we all work together to help. So feel free to let us know. Some background. We do have self-insurance and excess insurance in most of our programs. For workers' compensation, the city covers the first $2 million in a employee's claim. And then we have excess to take the rest. You can imagine some claims are very expensive. And so we do the $2 million, and excess comes in after that. For our liability claims, there are tort claims and some other exposures. We're self-insured up to the first $500,000, meaning the city pays that first $500,000. And then we have excess up to $10 million, depending on the exposure. There's a lot of different exposures that have different. There's several other policies. There's cyber liability. There's employee crime, some different bonds, special events. We have all those, require those policies as well and manage those for the city. Various limits, various deductibles depending on the exposure. Airport liability, obviously a lot higher limits. We're talking 150 million, those type of things. It's a deductible program. And then to get to the question, property coverage. So we do have deductibles with it. We have a commercial policy, $50,000, $100,000 deductibles, depending on the exposure. We insure over 1 billion of city property. So things are really growing.
I'm sorry, I want to repeat that. We insure over 1 billion.
1 billion of city property. So we have two funds in the city that we manage to make sure that we have enough money for those self-insured retentions. We charge departments premiums to make sure the funds are adequately funded. And we do that by loss history, property values, insurance costs, and a few other factors, just like an insurance company would. We have an actuarial review every year to make sure the funds are funded appropriately. That's really important to have actuaries look at that. They tell us you're based on losses and costs, you're going to need this much this next year to cover all claims. You're going to need this much, and then we use a actuary for a cost allocation plan as well. And then we have annual. We go out for bid annually on our insurance programs. We have 3 different brokers. And we really look at the market and to try to get the best value for the city. Trends that affect insurance. I thought this would be just helpful to see. Global insurance losses actually affect the insurance market probably the most. If there's a loss somewhere else, those insurance companies need to recoup money. So yes, our own experience does matter. But global is way up there. Legislation also impacts our costs. Our claimed experience, catastrophic claims really impact it. When we're adding property, that of course is going to increase our property, as well as just inflation and the cost to replace things. And then you can see salaries, medical costs are all there. Now talking about property insurance, affiliated FM is our property insurer. They're a top-notch company, well-known, and they like doing business with the city because we partner well with them. Our policy term is the fiscal year, and we've been with AFM for quite a long time. It's really helpful to be with a company for a long time if they're giving us the value and we're working well with them. Policy limit, 500 million. Is the policy limit, various sublimits depending on the exposures, various deductibles. So most losses, 50,000. So the risk management fund, if you had a loss, we would pay the first 50,000. Then the property would take the amount above that up to the value of the building. For earthquake, it's 100,000 per location. And then flood, 100,000 per location with some exceptions. For instance, this facility right here, because of its proximity to the river, it has a higher deductible. So we have to pay 250,000. There's some others that based on their location, whether close to the foothills or really close to the river, we have maybe it's $1 million deductible, just depending on that loss. So, and then AFM engineers come through periodically. Some of you may have, Jason or one of the other team will be with them. And they come in inspecting for libraries on a 3-year rotation where they come through and look at fire sprinkler systems. They look at those type of things to make sure that they're up to speed and we have the protocols. And then we work with the library in this case to make sure that their recommendations are resolved. That way we keep our premiums lower and they'll want to continue to do business with us. What's covered? Library facilities, furniture, office, computer, tech, books, materials, vehicles, art, business interruption, a lot of other things you wouldn't think about normally. But that's why it's so important to let us know when there's a loss. And then bad stuff does happen. So these are the things that we typically, and we have paid on these, fire and smoke damage. We have rental units that sometimes burn, some other, fire and smoke damage is terrible because it comes in, it may not be the fire, but it's a smoke damage. And we have to clean or replace a lot of different things. Building leaks are the ones I hate. Roofs, pipes. I don't know if you've experienced that, but yes, building the pipes for various reasons cause a lot of problem. We paid extensive amounts on that snow load damage, vandalism, floods, unfortunately. And then this was one of the questions, what do we do? Say you have a leak in one of the libraries, call risk and safety. Don't, it's something where we want to be there to partner with you. So don't worry, just give us a call, hopefully during the event if you can. In that case, I happen to be showing a new employee the Hillcrest site and walked over and the doors were locked and just wondering. So yeah, manager saw us and let us in and then we just talked through that. So perfect time. And we will bring in investigators, we'll bring in property experts, we'll file the insurance claims for you. We work with library management, insurance adjusters, engineers, lawyers, whatever is needed to resolve this. And that's really important. If we can get there quickly, we can get the right people to clean up the damage, to help clean it up. And of course, that's all covered as well. And that's just critical. It's when it's gone on too long and we start getting mold, growing, that's when things get really expensive and difficult. So you just give us a call and we'll work with you to resolve it all. And then unfortunately, some people damage city property, sometimes intentionally, sometimes accident, and we'll work with legal and actually go after that party to reimburse the city. So that's really crucial. So let's say we had somebody run into the bike rack out here. And so, we look at that kind of stuff. We'll get the police report and we find out, can we get money from that person's insurance company or that person? And that's property use of city funds. So please let us know. The earlier the better. We do have a form that you just call us, let us know. It's on the website, but call us, we'll send it to you and they work with you to get that claim filed. So any questions on that? I wanted to lead on that facility is a lease facility, Hillcrest. And so what we do there is we would look at the event, what fire sprinkler system, I believe, in that case. And so which city and what is the landlords? And so we help sort that out, working with legal, looking at the leases, finding out where our costs, say the flood got into all the books and things. Well, that's where we would step in and usually in leases, the tenant's responsible for their property. The landlord is responsible for the buildings. And so in that case, I don't want to say what would have happened, but usually we would cover the computers, the books, the tenant property in that case, and the landlord would take care of the rest of it. There's usually a waiver of subrogation in those cases where we agreed ahead of time not to sue each other, even though it was their fault. But we work with them quickly to try to get it resolved before it damaged the city property.
I feel like I need to interject that this was not a monster flood. Those of you who are not familiar with the Great Hillcrest flood of 2022, it actually resulted in us needing to replace the carpet that goes in and out of the staff door, and that was.
Yes, absolutely nothing.
It was even that. Like I feel like the need to say that this was not a. You didn't read about this in the paper because it was a very okay.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you, Courtney.
So property changes, we do like to make sure that everything is on our property schedule and insured. So communication is very important. Let's say you were to build a new branch. Usually Public Works will let us know. We'll read about it, but it's key just to let us know if there's significant changes. You buy a new vehicle. We do have an annual insurance application process where we work with our staff and say, okay, what do you have for books? What do you have for vehicles? What do you have for facilities? Are there any upgrades? And so that process catches everything. Just, that's when we do it annually. But if there was something in between, we work with Public Works when they're building new facilities to add those. We also have, we contract and hire independent property evaluators. It's a local company currently, Valuations Northwest, and they come in and they'll physically come into the site. They'll measure the square footage. If there has been changes, they update that if there's been remodels. And so we have that checking every city facility once every 5 years at least. So when there's a new facility, we send them immediately out there to look at that. So we get that on the insurance schedules at the proper replacement cost. So they're not appraisers, they're insurance value. There's a big difference there. And then we have various other forms that on the Boise home that folks, library staff can utilize to interact with us as well. So, and then how can we help the library? There's just another little advertisement out there. Facility inspections. You'll see us come through with insurance folks and independently. We look at your AEDs. We look at employee safety. A lot of different things in the facility. And customer safety as well. You're one of our annual inspections at least because you have so many people coming through. We want to make sure our customers are safe. And insurance, reducing injuries. If you have any questions, ergonomics is a big one as well. Just let us know. We're your partners. Any questions?
Corey, on the deductible, assume we had some sort of loss that was between 50 and 250,000, depending on the nature of the loss. The city would cover that. We would cover it.
The risk fund does. So we would cover it for you. It's part of the thing that the actuary helped set us up to make sure we're adequately funded to pay those losses.
Okay, and is that triggered by an interim budget request or that's outside of the city's budgeting process?
It's what you do is you would let us know that there's a loss. Just call us up, we file a claim. If it's under that 50,000, then it would be a self-insurance claim. We would have the library go through and fix it. We would probably assign an adjuster because we just like to make sure that it's cleaned up appropriately and we're making appropriate charges. So we have an independent property adjuster that comes in and looks at the damage and says, this is how much it's going to cost to fix, whatever the case is. And then you go ahead and fix it and we would reimburse the library for up to 50,000 for that cost. If it went over that cost, then we would reimburse the library for 50,000. Excess insurance would come in and they would reimburse the rest of it up to the amount of the replacement.
Okay, so the cycle time on repairing or replacing whatever was damaged is pretty quick based on what you just described.
It can be very quick. So the library can immediately jump in and use money. That might take a emergency request to get through purchasing, to hire the contractors to do the work. And then we're a reimbursement. So then we come in and reimburse. So we work with you and budget and purchasing to say, okay, the money's there. This is the proper way to go through the process. So usually it will go through the library's expense and then there's a reimbursement to that expense account.
So it sounds like the wheels of progress will keep turning or at least be interrupted for a very short period of time based on the process that you have.
Depending on the loss, it can be very quick. The quicker we can get the insurance out here, our independent adjuster out here, and that day, we have many losses where we just call and we get an independent adjuster out there. The insurance folks often have to fly out. They usually fly out within a week. It could be very fast. In fact, in some cases, we've had a fire where we've lost a building and they will look at the insurance schedules and say, well, we'll upfront you, 100, that case thing was 150,000. Is that good? And we look at the costs and yeah, that's good. Our insurance company is very good with those losses.
Okay.
If they have suspicions, or longer, there's some things that are insurable and there's some things that are not. So just to let you, if there's been a leak in the building for 40 years and then somebody turns in an insurance claim, sometimes those are more questionable and may not be. That may be wear and tear. It's not usually look at what type of loss. So not to bore you with insurance, but that is the facts of how it goes.
All right. Any other questions for Corey? I'm a lot less ignorant than I was before you presented. Thank you for that. And
Thanks again.
I feel good about the speed of the process, knowing that we can replace things quickly, repair things quickly.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, that takes us to some old business. The first is a policy review. And the Cole and Music branch manager Renee Addington is going to present for us. Now, I have one piece of paper that says Addington and one piece of paper that says Erickson. Has there been some big event in Renee's life that?
Oh,
No, I think it was a typo.
Oh,
And I'm actually Sarah Kelly Chase, the Public Services Manager. Renee was not able to join us today,
Okay.
so you can get me again. So sorry for the confusion. We are diving into policy 3.0. So there's 3 policies, 2 of which we're not recommending any changes for. Policy 3.03, services for schools. We wanted to tighten it up to make it clear on how we make decisions on whether or not we're able to serve schools outside of our district and area of impact. So those were the changes that we added. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Sure. And I will also apologize ahead of time. The services for schools, we did so much marking up of it. I should have put a clean one underneath so you weren't trying to follow the bouncing ball. So I apologize. That was a little challenging to read.
Okay, these are marked in red, changes in mark. The last change, which starts with "and so as not to diminish."
We're missing
it occurred to
an
me
A.
as I was reading, clearing off your priorities would work just as well. The "and so as not to diminish" is sort of repetitive. The whole purpose of the policy is to address service for schools. And I'm not sure that last sentence, the last clause adds a lot of value. If you decide to keep it, now this is not adding a lot of value, but there's an A missing in "as," and so as not.
I have it circled. Yes,
All right.
sorry about that. I guess I would throw that to Ed. Do you see a reason to keep the qualifier?
So what it's talking about here is, first it starts with, first sentence is talking about schools within the Boise area, city of impact, or within the city of Boise. And then, the second sentence, it says, then it goes to library, schedule school visits and in-school programs. And then, the intent of the second one, was to discuss schools, outside of the city of Boise in the area of impact. That may have been, well,
But the first sentence says, the second sentence says, "or within the Boise City area of impact." You defined it right up front. Well, let's just take one look at it. If you're happy with it, we can go with it as is, or if you decide to change it, we can come back and look at it again next time.
I do believe that there's something, that is, was sort of lost somewhere along the way, where the second, because if you look it down at, the sentence that's crossed out, it's discussing director or designee will consider requests from classes outside the Boise city limits and Boise area of impact for specialized programs. And so what the intent was first there's the classes within the city of Boise in area of impact, and you schedule those to the extent that programming allows. And then the intent with the second one is those schools outside the school limits, city limits, or the area of impact can still schedule and still in the discretion of the library, but with the priority being making sure that the schools within the city are sort of have somewhat of a priority. So that was the intent of the change. I think that maybe something to reflect, but what the second sentence is talking about is not clear as written, because it doesn't state that it's talking about schools outside the city limits or the area of impact.
It references both Boise city limits and Boise area city of impact.
We can either work on language that reflects that right now, or we can take it back and bring it back next month with something that's a little bit more well.
I vote we look at it again next month. that okay?
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ed. Any other questions?
Well, the other policy looked good.
Okay.
Not surprised there were no changes.
Yeah. Okay, so we will come back to 3.03 next month with updates for further clarity. Thank you.
All right. And the next item on the agenda is the certification of the Idaho Commission for Libraries annual report. And Jessica is going to address that.
Yes, thank you. So this is, I think we've previewed this in a couple of our previous meetings. One of the things that we do on an annual basis is report the statistics of the library to the Idaho Commission for Libraries. They get these statistics from all libraries in the state and then reports Institute Museum and Library Services. So we have done the work gathering that data and have it here for your final approval before we upload it and submit it to ICFL. A couple of things I wanted to note. As you see, we have a version of the cover letter that we had talked about last month with some of the changes that were suggested. And we'll have that for your signature. I was able to connect with Stephanie Bailey White, who is our Idaho State Librarian, saying that that this would be coming with the packet, and she was very appreciative of that and the thought behind it. And then also, I think the comment that we had last month about this data is really important and it shows the impact and the the usage in the community, but this format may not.
Yeah.
And boy, is she right, that this is what we need to submit to the state so that they can report. But we've started looking at what would be a public version of this that would have more context, some photos, something that you would run or read. So we've got that on our list of things we're working on. We thought that was just a fabulous suggestion. And so, we want you to approve this because this is, the data that we need to submit, but then we will come back with what we think this would look like if we wanted the public to be able to look at the data and see it as well.
I thought the data was very rich and the public would appreciate seeing it. So I think that was a good suggestion. Just a reminder for everybody, maybe you already know this, I'm a slow learner. It took me a year to figure out that this was sort of a building process across the year and a summary compiled at the end of the year. We've been looking at the numbers that go into this report each month of the year, the past year. And every number we've seen, or it's a subset of the numbers we've seen, or some of them are calculated using the numbers we've seen. So there's nothing really new here other than the presentation is very compelling and really gives you a good idea about the operations of the library. Any questions for Jessica?
Sorry, I just wanted to say one more thing. In the packet, I actually put a link. ICFL then publishes an Idaho report. And so I put a link in the director's update to the 2021 annual report that ICFL just made publicly available. And this is where you can actually see all the libraries in Idaho. And so you can look at all the data, the exact same questions for every library is answered in the exact same way. So you get an opportunity to start to see trends and comparisons across.
Do they aggregate the data all together too,
That's what they said, yeah.
in addition to the
Yep.
individuals?
Any questions for Jessica? We reviewed during last month's meeting, a cover letter intended to go with the report. And I got some feedback from Natasha on the report that added some strength to the final paragraph. Thank you, Natasha, for your contribution. I appreciate it. And Nikki is not here. The next item on the agenda is.
Oh, wait, you need to, this is
Oh,
a
I'm
motion.
sorry, that's a motion item.
Yep.
We didn't vote on 6A, right? We're going to look at it again next month.
Correct.
So I didn't forget it there. So is there a motion to approve the certification of the Idaho Commission for Libraries annual report?
I move to approve.
Thank you very much. Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. So the motion carries, and thank you very much for your efforts on the report. A lot of work goes into that. All right, the next topic is a library director performance review. Nikki sent me a note with her update. She's roughed out a draft calendar for the annual performance review. And it starts with meeting with the city to set up surveys in early January. And at the January meeting, she'll have a more full update of where we are, what the schedule is for the annual performance review. Any questions about that? All right. New business. First item is fiscal year 22 year-end budget report. Emily Johnson, the library's chief administrative officer, will present.
Yes, thank you. So this is page 36 of your packet. I'm sure everybody's following along. And I won't say much. I'm going to quote you, Brian. This is, you've looked at this every month. That was the budget the board approved. So much like the report, not a lot of new, just maybe a different way to kind of compile it all. So this is the year-end budget report as presented to council. So it's just a summary of our year. And I do want to say a few things that aren't listed on this page, just as kind of some supplemental information. But again, this is just pulled directly from our board approved budget and the monthly financials. So we've been tracking this throughout the year. But maybe just a few things that I'm a little bit proud of that I think we should note while we all are together. So the first thing is expenses. So the personnel line item specifically, we were tracking under budget through the year due to some unfilled positions, which is kind of the ongoing state of our world right now. But it also allowed us to provide an increase for our staff, and cost of living increase for our staff. So we were still coming in under budget for personnel, but I think talk about a really great way to spend some of our resources to put in the pockets of our staff that work really hard to operate the library every year. So I think that was really exciting, and that was a motion approved by council, and I think it was a really great thing to be able to do last year. So feeling really good about that. And I do think we had a really exceptional year with our maintenance and operation funds, and I'm actually going to call out Kathy and her team, who spent 99.7% of their budget, which is really exciting because, first of all, that's awesome. In fact, I heard somebody say, never before have I seen such a great use of funds, but they provide our collection. So we got to buy books and electronic materials and things for our public. And so I think we did a really good job with spending last year. We learned a lot, and that will go into how we spend money this year and build our budget out. But it's all about providing library services and materials for our folks to come in and use and learn and improve their life. So I think that was great. So all in all, we had a really good year. We, I think, were able to do some really meaningful things for our library. We were able to make some significant improvements for us moving forward and spend our money in a very responsible way that ultimately results in better service for our community. So it was a great year for us financially. So,
Emily, I have a couple of questions.
okay.
In fiscal year 22 numbers, as opposed to the fiscal year 2021 numbers, there was no general fund contribution for 2022. So it shows up as a big, like, I don't remember exactly, $14 million loss, as opposed to a small net gain or loss. Is something changed in the policy about how general funds are recorded or reported?
I am not sure. Kim is nodding. Do you want to?
So previously, fiscal year 21 and prior, part of the budget process to offset the expenditures and make departments whole, at least in presentation, we would record or show a general fund contribution, which is, like the property tax, et cetera, that supports the library departments or the other departments. So across the board citywide, everyone used to have that line item in their revenue, if we want to call it revenue. But with the 21 budget bill, they did remove it. And so now you just see departmental revenue and then offsetting the expenditure budget.
Okay, so there was a policy.
Yes.
Very good, thank you. And don't go yet. There was a fiscal year actual year-over-year increase, 2021 versus 2022 of 14.5%. Is that because the expenditures were sort of depressed during 2021, the big COVID pandemic year? It seems like an unusually large gain or growth in expenses year on year, actual expenses.
I would say there's several factors playing into that. I mean, yes, we did, in 2021, we were working with like COVID restriction budget. But then as we were doing our budget build for fiscal year 22, we're looking at opening up facilities, perhaps increased costs of staffing, whether it's in health insurance or, other areas, salary increases. The maintenance operations, we account for some increases in utilities, perhaps, some rental potential increases on a couple of our branches. So, and the one word I probably would want to avoid, but I will say, the cap charges were a big contributor towards the increase year over year. But speaking of cap charges, a lot of things that fall under that, the city is growing. So we have additional services that are being provided to the library department, HR, IT, and then also depreciation expense, which is kind of included under the cap charges. So we did see a substantial increase from 21 to 20 as we either purchase new assets, complete projects. And so those depreciation expense charges come on board the following year.
Okay. So general inflation, growth of the community, cap charges account for the unusual growth this year.
And personnel, I think, a combination of everything.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Thank you very much. And the next item on the agenda is the Learning Lab lease amendment. Emily, you have the pleasure of addressing that one too.
Yes, so Jessica mentioned this earlier, because of the work happening on the fourth floor, for safety reasons and a couple of other reasons, we decided to, or it has been decided for the best interest and safety of everybody to have the fourth floor vacant for several months. So I reached out to Logan and just said, we met with Monique, the executive director of Learning Lab, and they are agreeable to provide services in other locations while we need the fourth floor empty. But we don't feel right charging them rent while they're not using the space. So Logan was willing to draft up a amendment to the lease, just basically stating that while they're not in the space, we will not charge them rent. So I have sent that over to Monique. She's had her team review it, send it back to us. So we are putting it in front of the board for approval. It's just amending the lease that we won't charge them while they're not on the fourth floor. And before we do anything, I just have to take a minute and say that the Learning Lab, specifically Monique, have been amazing during this process. Very flexible. I know this is an inconvenience for them, but she has been great to work with. They have found alternatives for their classes. And I just wanted to publicly thank Monique for how great she's been to work with. It's been great to kind of walk through this with her, and she's been a real trooper.
Is she here on the call?
I don't know, but I'm putting it out there.
All right, where will they go to sustain their operations during the construction period?
They have a few other sites, and we've offered if they want to do things at some of our other library locations. So they are just kind of moving classes around to some of their other locations and then looking for some creative outlets. And we've offered Hillcrest. I know they've worked with Hillcrest in the past, so kind of working with their students to see what's going to make sense.
Is there much equipment that has to be moved? Or
Fortunately, we're not doing, with the Friends, we're doing work butting right up against their space. So we're gonna do a little bit of moving of their equipment. With the Learning Lab, they don't need to move any equipment, but we just won't be able to access the space. So they'll just lock their doors January 1 and then come back with construction.
All right. It must have been a rude awakening or a rude interruption for them to learn that they had to move out after just signing a lease with us at a rate that's supposed to represent more market value.
It's part of the nonprofit.
Yeah.
Lease policy for the
Yeah.
city.
Honestly, it didn't seem fair to me as I was reading from their point of view. It seemed like they have to move things out and figure out how to replan their operation for 8 months. But it sounds like it all worked out.
It's, again, just another credit to Monique. This, our eyes on the long game with this renovation, and we need to get everything ADA accessible and up to speed. So I think she sees the bigger picture, and it's been really great to work with. But I agree, I think it's certainly not been the more convenient path, but a necessary one. So
Okay,
huge shout out to her and her team.
well, thank you for presenting that.
Yeah,
It's the Learning Lab, the Friends. Is there any other organization? Are there any other organizations that?
just our internal partners.
Just-
So DFA, IT, and then our staff.
But no other outside ones? Okay.
It's pretty evident, having been up there very recently, that it is in deep need, so.
There's
I think-
some-
Yes,
we try
for health and safety perspective.
Yes, it's gonna be great when it's
Yes.
done. Not to mention the ADA compliance and some of our plumbing that is, it's good to hear from Corey. 'Cause we've got some plumbing.
It will be a
issues
good
that we're
thing.
Crossing our
Despite the
fingers.
inconveniences.
And we really thought, is there a way to sort of do the construction, and it just ended up being faster and easier and definitely safer to have nobody up on the fourth floor. So,
Now, does there need to be an approval? It's not marked on my agenda.
oh, if you flip the page.
I believe it.
Oh, motion, yes, okay. So is there a motion to approve the Learning Lab lease amendment regarding the construction of the fourth floor?
I move to approve the amendment to the Learning Lab lease.
I
Is there a
second.
second? Thank you very much. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye, okay, and that's all of us present. So the motion is carried. Thank you. That takes us to, there was a report systems statistics. Any questions for Carrie on systems statistics report? All right. Things are going well. Things are very busy. It's the net, the system statistics report. And the next item on the agenda is a selection of a trustee to review payment vouchers. And it is Nikki's turn. She's not here, but she's going to be busy girl in January on our behalf with the director's annual performance review work and vouchers and other activities she's responsible for in January.
Is it possible, just a question for a process to trade, if it's at all helpful to alleviate that for her, so it's something I could do with little her? Or is that just more money than anything?
Say that again, Lisa.
Oh, I was saying, is it possible to switch months? Like, if she's doing
Oh, yeah.
other things next month, I would be happy to approve
Okay,
in her set, if that's something she would be
I'll
interested in.
okay, I'll reach out to her and if we need to change something.
Very easy.
Thank you for that kind offer, Rebecca.
Thank you, Rebecca.
And the next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, January 11th, 2023. Any issues or concerns about the date of that meeting? All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Move to adjourn.
A second?
I second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Meeting is adjourned.